Hello, this is Mike Van Meter. Welcome to the Recovery is Possible, Hope and Healing with Mike and Lily podcast. We want to thank you for joining us. You can reach us at our Facebook site, which is also called Recovery is Possible, or our website, which is vanmeterwellnesssolutions.com. This podcast exists to educate the public about addiction, remove the stigma associated with addiction, and offer help and support for those suffering from addiction. Hey everybody, this is Mike Van Meter, and welcome to Recovery is Possible with Mike and Lily podcast. And, this is such a great day, and we have such a great guest in Laura Lindsey today, and she's going to be talking to us about Heroes on the Water. And she and I were just talking about how this is an organization that more people should know about, and after today, I want all of you to go out and spread the word on this organization because they do a lot of good work with our heroes, and that being our first responders, our military, those people that are suffering from trauma, PTSD, addiction, all those kinds of issues, and getting them back into not only society, but fulfilling their lives and helping them to just really realize, get back into those things that bring them fulfillment and help them live that full life. Because, in recovery, it's not just enough to put down the drink or drugs, which we talk about on this podcast quite a bit, but you addressing those issues and making sure that you get back into the things that bring you happiness, where you're helping others, where you're helping yourself, and feeling fulfilled in your life. And so today we're going to get to know Laura, and we're going to get to know all about Heroes on the Water, and just really honored to have her as a guest here today on the podcast. So Laura, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, Mike. We really appreciate it.
Well, I've been waiting for a couple of weeks to have you on and have been anticipating this because I love people like you and I love the work that you're doing. And if you have not had a chance to take a look at Heroes on the Water, there's a lot of information actually on YouTube in particular. That's where I went and I looked at the work that you were doing and saw a lot of testimonials. But today, if you can, just tell us about yourself, tell us about the organization and what it is that is the work that you guys do, the great stuff that you're doing out there.
Sure. So I'm going to start with Heroes on the Water because to me, that's the most important. We are a 501c3. We've been around since 2007. So we know our program works, which is a wellness program for veterans, active duty military, first responders, and their families. We feel it's really important to include families. And we take you kayak fishing, which sounds fun, and it is, and it's simple, but it also, we know it works. So the organization has invested a lot of time and energy in a study that was created alongside some recreational therapists at Texas State University. So we know that it's valid, and you can go on our website and look at it. It's called Operation Early Impact. But the thing that's so amazing about it is that we knew people were doing better. Like they would show up and they would be in one state and they would go out on the water and they would come back and their demeanor would be entirely different. So we went out and figured out what caused all of that change, positive change for them. And when you go look at the website, you'll see, for example, 95% of participants said that it improved their stress level. So yeah, we were really impressed and super happy with it. And I've been with this organization for a while now, almost 10 years. And it's been a wonderful, wonderful experience for me. I personally did not serve in the military, and I'm not a first responder. But once I found out about what we do and how we do it, and just the whole power of the outdoors and being out in nature, which is one of my favorite things, I was hooked. I'm like, this makes a lot of sense to me because it gives people an opportunity to go somewhere and relax and reconnect and be in a place that is friendly and supportive and with people that are familiar and that have been there and done that. And so it's calming.
Yeah, and you mentioned that there's a lot of you had a study done on this, and it's relaxing, and it's really just changed the demeanor. And so, just to take us back a little bit into, it's been around since 2007, and what were the origins? How did it get started? What was the motivation behind that?
So this is fun, and one of my favorite stories to tell. Our founder, the wonderful man named Jim Dolan, lost him much too soon. He was an Air Force veteran, and he loved to fish. And so he got connected with a group of what I very fondly call ragtag kayak fishermen down on the coast of Texas. And they took him kayak fishing, and he fell in love with it. He's like, this is really cool. And he happened to be connected with a group over at Brooke Army Medical Center. And if you know anything about BAMC, you know one of the things that they've always been really good at is being progressive when it comes to helping their military in treatment recover. They've been very open to doing things that were different, right? And so he calls them up and he's like, hey, we think this would be fun, and we'd like to take some of your people on a kayak fishing trip. And they said, okay, we will do that. And so they busts them out to a place down close to San Antonio, and they were in it immediately. So this is a group that's just not afraid, right? Like they're not afraid to try new stuff, and it was interesting and it was different. And they get out there, and there was one guy who was reticent to be out on the water. And we see this from time to time. We're never going to make anybody do anything they don't want to do, right? That's uncomfortable. But they talked to him a bit, and he's like, okay, I'm going to try it. Well, he had a pretty bad stutter from a traumatic brain injury. And so he gets out there and he paddles around for a while on the kayak, and then he catches a fish, and then he catches another one. And they all come back in, because this is all the format that we've been using. So you go out, we provide all of the stuff for you. You go out, you fish, you come back, break bread together, have community, get the camaraderie, tell your fish story, right? So it's that sort of format. He comes back in and he's telling everybody about how cool it was and how excited he was and the fishing. And he stops because they're just looking at him, and he's not stuttering. His stutter has gone away. And he looks at the people standing there and he says, look, this is the first time in 4 months in all the therapy that I've had that I haven't stuttered. And I know it will come back, but now I have hope. And that's how we got started.
Oh, man. And, I wonder how much of that is just related to, just getting, when you're going through something, whether it's addiction, trauma, you just get so wrapped up in the present of what you're dealing with, whatever that may be. I think this idea of getting outside of yourself, because in recovery, we talk about that quite a bit. It's getting outside of yourself and focusing on other things and focusing on other people. And I often say that addiction is isolation and recovery is community. And, even though the subject of this is fishing and kayak and getting out, it just seems to me like there's this element of getting someone outside of themselves and thinking about something else and having that purpose of mission, but not just the fishing, but the connection with the other people, because you're talking about how you're breaking bread with others and having meals with one another. How much of that do you think comes into play with this?
It's a huge part. So we find, so to your point, the whole being in nature and that healing, calming effect, we choose typically kayaks that you paddle, right? So you've got that motion that ultimately releases a lot of the tension and stress that you carry in your shoulders and your neck, because most of us do, right? Then you've got the fishing piece of it that to your point they tell us this all the time. It's a new mission. Like, I have to go catch this fish, right? Like, this gives me something to really focus on. And when you start combining those two things, for the people that have shared their stories, and we have so many, we're so blessed that they share their stories. They tell me that post-traumatic stress in their brain is like a lot of static. It's this noise. And when they're out there, the noise calms and it goes away for a little bit. And so now they're really focused on that immersive piece of being in nature and fishing. And then they come back. And when you come back, there's a whole group there that has experienced the same thing with you. And you get to sit and, have lunch and talk through how much fun it was and the fish you caught and the kids, then what they're doing next. And maybe it's baseball season. It's like all of those pieces, that camaraderie gives them back a community that they miss when they leave the military.
Yeah, I think that's really what it is. It's being back part of that community. And I like how what you're saying is that it starts. It seems like the work that you're doing is starting that reconnection with society. Because I've noticed that, in the clinical work that I'm doing right now, I just see that. I just see people when they're experiencing trauma and it's not been fully addressed, or addiction issues, depression issues. You just become, these walls are just set up within your own mind, and you just stop. It stops with connecting with other people. Then we talk about the used-tos. I used to do this. I used to play the guitar. I used to fish. I used to go to the gym. I used to fill in the blank, whatever it is. And then that just goes away, the used-tos. And this seems to be that pathway back to getting back to doing the things that you love to do. And this isn't just veterans and first responders. I mean, I know that's what your target audience is, but this could be anyone that's out there, correct?
Right. Yes, exactly. And like I said, families are a big part of who we serve, because we believe everybody serves, whether your, spouse is a veteran, is active duty military, or a first responder. There's a whole level of stress and lifestyle that those of us that have never been in those scenarios just really don't understand, right? And so it's important, and we see things like, a father and son reconnecting for the first time because it's the first time they've gotten the kid to put the phone down and interact and catch fish together, right?
Yeah.
So you get that, right? Or the spouses tell us, wow, I haven't heard my husband laugh like that in years. It's just, it just lowers a lot of the barriers to exactly what you're talking about when you're in it and your mind is in it and you're so focused, and especially with a group like this that is so mission driven. These are people that are community and mission driven by nature, right? And want to do better, and it's easy to get frustrated. And so having the opportunity to release that out on the water, because that's what they say. We just leave it on the water, right? You can talk about it. You don't have to talk about it. Nobody's going to make you. It's whatever makes you comfortable. And understanding that you're in a group of people that have been there, done that, and they completely empathize with where you are makes a huge difference.
Oh, absolutely. Now you're in Texas right now, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now chapters across the country, because I know that this is a nationwide organization. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So we have two programs. There is the volunteer-led program, and there's 57 of those chapters, I want to say in 26 states. They change because people come to us and want to start new chapters in their area quite frequently. So those folks, those are where you get your veterans, your first responders, and the family members all together about once a month. That's the other thing about our program that's a little bit different, is it's recurring. So if you want to come in April and again in May and again in June, you are welcome to do that. And so it's not like a 1 week long, hunting, fishing excursion that you go to Montana for a week and then you're done for the year. It's recurring. And so those chapters meet typically on a Saturday, and there are some differences, but as a general rule, it's typically on a Saturday. You go out early in the morning, get your safety briefing, because we're really big on safety. So we put you in the kayak, make sure everything fits okay, give you your paddle, your PFD, your personal flotation device, which is required. Get you out there, you fish for a while. And then you come back, like I said, and have the lunch and commune with everybody. But those are our typical season, I'm going to say, is April through October. Obviously, the geography makes a difference. Like our South Texas chapter can run year round if they wanted to, whereas if you're in upstate New York, that's a different thing. So, right, environment and geography plays a part, but that's how the volunteer programs work. There's 4 people on the leadership team, and you just go to the website and find the blue dot on our map that's closest to you and go sign up. And that's pretty much it. Like they give you all the information, you show up and attend an event. Then there is the therapeutic program, and that group works directly with the VA and the DoD for soldiers, for like the SRU and the different VA groups around the country. So there's 11 of those, and they work directly with the recreational therapist on site. And so these are for folks that are in treatment, and they go out every week or every other week. And I just describe it as we write a prescription for kayak fishing for you, right? So it is part of their treatment plan.
And when you say treatment plan, is this is treatment plans through the VA or private?
Through the VA or through the Department of Defense. So like the Soldier Recovery Unit, each of the military branches has their own version, basically. So they're, you're there to rehab because you've been injured, and they're working to get you well again. I think the ideal circumstance for that is they want them back into active duty. Sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. But the recreational therapist on site evaluates those people, and they have choices. They can do all sorts of different things. And so for our therapeutic programs, when those places that we are aligned, so like in Denver, in the Colorado area, there's 2, I think there's a 3rd one coming up next year. Then you can go kayak fishing. In fact, on our website, if people are interested in this, there's a story on there where we just in August took, with the VA in the Denver area, we took a bunch of visually impaired veterans kayak fishing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's really amazing. They each had their own individual buddy so that they could be safe. Again, safety is important. And they had a blast.
Oh, wow. And that's Denver and the Denver area. Do you happen to know the other location in Denver?
Not off the top of my head, but those are the gold dots on the site.
Okay. The reason I ask that is because I get out to Colorado quite a bit. My daughter is stationed out there in Colorado. And so guess who I'm going to ask to get involved with your organization?
That would be fantastic. Yes, we love that. So it's Denver. And if I'm not mistaken, the other one is in close to Colorado Springs.
All right. Well, that's exactly where she's at. So you might get some volunteers.
That would be fantastic. Yes, we love our volunteers. We could not do this without them. So,
and I get out there quite a bit myself, and that's fantastic. So, on the website, it is something you want to check out, and there are a lot of testimonials that are out there. Now, let's talk about funding a little bit. So, does this cost you anything if you're involved?
No, for our participants, it's free. We provide all of it, and it's all free. We rely on our supporters and our very generous donors to make sure that we can provide this program.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now, are you collaborating with any other groups as well, or is it solely you guys, or are you reaching out to the various groups that are out there to help and support?
So we do a lot of collaboration, and when it comes about and when it makes sense. So we are part of a larger group that participates in something called Carry the Load every year. Here, it started here in the Dallas area, and it's a nationwide march. And so we've met a lot of our peers through that. And we try repeatedly to do regular events with them, just so that, because it makes sense. It lets people find out all the different things that you can do. And then our chapters are really active in their community. So you're apt to see us at all sorts of places, whether it's a fishing show or, the local VA is having an event and we have a table there, or we pass out flyers, or even if it's one of those things where it's a corporation and they bring in their community partners, we do all sorts of things like that.
So you're at a lot of the fishing shows and fundraisers. Now, do you guys have a large fundraiser that you do every year?
No, we do not internally, just because it makes sense for us to have our energy really focused on the chapters and the therapeutic program and doing things more at a community grassroots level.
Okay.
So we don't do like a big gala or anything like that.
Okay. Well, definitely we want to spread the word, and I hope the listeners of this program will spread the word on this program. And you've been around since 2007. And tell us, do you have any individual stories that you can tell us about some things that you know, obviously every life is a miracle and every change is a miracle, but are there any stories that in your mind really just stand out as an example of this is why we exist, this is a prime example of our mission, and this is how this organization is changing lives?
Oh, wow. How much time do we have?
Well, I just say I have to be at work tomorrow morning. I know there are a lot. There are a lot, but just some things that really just, so the listeners can say, hear examples of, you know, this is why we do what we do.
Sure. So on our website, there's a media section, and in there are a ton, to your point, a lot of YouTube videos. And one of them is of a gentleman named Jason Austin. He's retired Army, and he has an incredible, powerful story that if I try to go into, I'll just start crying. So we won't do that. But what I will tell you is that he attributes being here to Heroes on the Water. He was ready to take that last final step, and somebody called him and said, "Hey, I hear you need some help, and I need some help, and how about we go fishing?" And that's how he got connected with Heroes on the Water. And today he is one of our full-time employees that works with the volunteer programs to make sure that they have everything that they need to serve the community and fulfill the mission. So that one is one I would definitely encourage people to go take a look at. Jason just tells his own story better than anybody. But when you've got someone who literally attributes being here on Earth to a kayak fishing program, I think it's worth the time to take a listen. And then, I mean, there's so many, right? There's several that tell us that too. It's like, you know, Heroes on the Water changed my life. I'm better with my wife now. I have a better job. If it weren't for you guys, you know, I wouldn't have the relationship that I have with my kids. But I will share my own personal story, because as a civilian, people, you know, they often ask me, well, how did you get connected? And it really did start out with me just writing blog posts. That's what I was doing. And as part of that, I ran across a guy named Brandon, and he told me his personal Heroes on the Water story. And so I'll share that one with you. So he was in Afghanistan, and he was telling me, you know, a little bit about his service and being in the Army and what that was like. And he kept apologizing to me. He said, "I'm so sorry, ma'am. I have a traumatic brain injury and I can't remember things." And I'm like, "You're fine. There's no pressure. Just tell me what it is that you want to tell me and how this works. And we'll just print whatever you're comfortable with, and, you know, no pressure. And you're doing fine." Right. So I kept encouraging him, "You're doing fine." Because he really was. It wasn't like he kept forgetting, and he was fine. But he was super aware that his TBI could cause him to lose track of where he was and how that was working. And so then he starts telling me about his injury and how he ended up at Brooke Army Medical Center. And Mike, when he starts telling me this story, it completely changes. He remembers what direction the wind was blowing in. He remembers the smell at the time. He remembers exactly what time of day it was to the minute, right? Like the level of detail that he is giving me is overwhelming. And I'm thinking, okay, this is interesting and not what I expect. And then he starts to talk to me about what happened. And it was one of those unfortunate and tragic situations where the person who attacked was actually inside their area, inside the base, because they thought he was a friendly. And he wasn't. And he started shooting, and Brandon was injured, and as was the guy was next to him. And he's telling me exactly what that sounded like and exactly how that felt and what he had to do to pull through and save people, even though he was critically injured. And I was overwhelmed completely because I had never heard anyone give me such detail about exactly what it was like. And so he talks about, that's how he found Heroes on the Water and how much he loved the program and how much it helped him to recover and how appreciative he was for us being there for him when he got back to the States with these injuries and how we helped him recover. And I got off that phone call and I walked into my living room and sat down and cried and said to myself, I am not worthy. I'm not worthy of these sacrifices, right? And so for me, that was the moment that this mission became personal for me because I realized how big of a sacrifice people make for us and how much I just didn't understand. And so it was my Heroes on the Water life-changing moment.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's powerful. And I think a lot of us take this for granted, that the sacrifices that people are making, particularly since, our involvement in Iraq and Afghanistan went on for over 20 years. Yeah. And I think that, in the beginning, we understood that. And to a large extent, a lot of people pay it lip service now when they say thank you for your service and things like that. And they say that. I'm not saying that people don't mean it, but it's taken on. It's just been so long, this involvement that we've had. And when you have somebody like yourself that doesn't pay it lip service, you're saying, look, I need to be involved in this because we owe this to our veterans, the veterans that have been injured and the people that are scarred for the rest of their lives. And the suicide rate, as you know, it's about 22 per day, maybe north of that. This is a very, very serious problem. And I love that you guys are just creative ways of helping our veterans overcome this. And you have direct evidence that this is having an impact on those veterans that are suffering and will continue to suffer for the rest of their lives, and create this outlet to help them. That is just so powerful. It really is. Now, when we're looking at the trauma that the veterans have, and now there's outgrowth of that. There's addiction. There's family violence. There's, of course, we talk about PTSD, the medical part of it, the psychological part of it. Do you have people then that they find this to be a conduit then to address those other issues? Obviously, this podcast is about recovery from addictions. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? Are you experiencing people that then find this as your organization as a pathway into deeper recovery for those other issues that are also impacting their lives, but that are an outgrowth of the trauma that they have, i.e. addiction?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Are you seeing that?
Yes, we are. And I want to make sure that everybody understands too, that this also applies to our first responder community, right? I mean, we really work hard to, include the first responder community. We have several volunteer chapters that are primarily first responders, and they tell me the same thing. Kayak fishing has done something for me that nothing else would do. And there's plenty of those stories on the website too. But to specifically answer your question back to Operation Early Impact, part of that study, there's three pieces. There's the stress management, there's the self-efficacy piece, which 90% reported increase in self-efficacy, and then 91% reported positive impacts on personal relationships. And that is where we realized that the kayak fishing piece and the event itself actually has a residual positive impact on our participants.
That's now. Do you find them going on and becoming involved in other organizations? Recovery programs like AA, NA, Celebrate Recovery, those types of things.
That is something I don't know because we don't really track that and we don't ask it. What I do know is that we do see them become more involved in Heroes on the Water and helping one another. And I think that's where they're sharing those sorts of pieces, and we want to just protect, right? Obviously, their privacy and their ability to have that space to do that freely.
Yeah. Now, do you guys at these events? Now, do you provide? Now, I know the focus is on fishing and being on the water, and that's fantastic. But is there an educational element to this too, as well? Do you put on seminars, or that are put on along with this, or in conjunction with this, or are you pointing them in different directions? How's that work?
So the most of the learning is going to be around the program itself, right? So you can come to an event and we will teach you how to fish if you've never done it or you haven't done it since you were a kid with grandpa or whatever the situation is. So never been in a kayak before, we will hook you up with a buddy and make sure that you can do that. And then the rest of it is more off the water. So there are off the water events, and we do, these do depend on the individual chapters because we let them have the freedom to do what makes the most sense for their community. So they may very well have a breakfast and have somebody come in and speak. It's not something we organize on a national level. It's something we encourage them to do based on their own community and what makes the most sense. The therapeutic program has the Winter Skill Sets program. So they will work directly with the VA or the DoD group and do things like rod building or fly tying. And one of the things that we always, which makes sense and probably don't need to say out loud, but I will anyway, is all of our events, there's no alcohol, there's no drugs, it's not a party. Right. I mean, it is a wellness program, and we want you to have an opportunity to be able to feel the positive impact of being out in nature that way. And so we're very adamant about, we just don't do that. It's not healthy for anyone, and it's not helping. So but we do encourage them to do what makes sense in their community.
And I agree with that wholeheartedly. This is this is us getting our feet back on the ground. It is reconnecting with nature, with one another, with our purpose, and you have to experience that. And so I'm so glad to hear that. Now you talk about connections with the DoD. So what is the involvement with the DoD? Are they directly involved, or kind of is a cursory relationship? How does that work?
So when we talk about that, the Department of Defense that's where those individual branch recovery units come from. The one I'm most familiar with is one that we have down in Killeen, Texas. It's the Soldier Recovery Unit that's part of Fort Hood, right? And so they each have their own recovery units, right? Their hospitals, their own PT trauma groups that are associated with each of the branches. The Marines have one, the Navy has one. And so that's what we say when we're talking about being part of the DoD, is that's where we are providing kayak fishing for active duty military people, because they are in treatment post-injury to try to rehab to get ready to go back into active duty.
Right, and I would imagine the same would be with the first responders as well. It depends on the individual chapter, the relationship between police agencies, fire agencies, the other first responders.
Yes, exactly. So some of them, like we have a long-standing first responder group up in Western Connecticut, and they have a lot of interaction with the different wellness groups there. But it does depend on geography. It depends on where you are. And those are, as you might well imagine, a little more intense because every single one, so in a community, you're going to have city, county, state, right? Like each level has their own thing. And then you've got, you've got fire, you've got law, they're all different. So they're all very, they're not one big group typically that you can go to like we can the VA. They're so individualized that it does make it a bit of a lift to get in with each of the wellness programs. And believe me, we've done it and we work it very hard, but they are specific to whatever region you're in.
Yeah, that can get very, very large, and that's fantastic. And I'm glad that you're doing that for first responders as well, because in my personal background, the people that listen to this podcast know I'm a military guy. I was a Navy pilot, and then local police officer, and then retired as an FBI agent. And I can tell you that it's fantastic that we're doing things for first responders, because I can tell you, having been a first responder, the trauma just goes on and on and on. There's no deployment cycle. Your deployment cycle is 20 plus years. It's the stuff that you see as a first responder. If your average person saw that in one day, they'd be in therapy for the rest of their lives. But you're doing it day in and day out for multiple years. And I can tell you the first responder community in particular has this us and them sort of viewpoint. It's us and them. I know when I work with people, first responders now, and just let's say I'm trying to get somebody into a recovery program, and we'll just use AA as an example, and I'll try to encourage somebody to get involved in a program, and the first thing I hear is, well, do you have any meetings that are just for police officers? It's like there's this reluctance to work with anyone that is not in that community. And I understand that, coming from that world, I completely understand that. And if it means that somebody if that's what gets them involved in the beginning, that's great. But then I also encourage them later to, look, don't just stay here. You need to relate to the rest of the community, because, you're not going to be in this for forever. You're not going to be a police officer or fireman or firewoman for the rest of your life. This is as much as, and I want to address this for a second, because I think that this may be another way that your organization is helping people. And whether you're military or you're a first responder of whatever type there is. And by the way, I include doctors and nurses in there, and I work in a hospital now, so I see the same mentality even in the hospital. These professions, there is a uniqueness to it that you just don't see in other parts of society. You just don't. If you're a civilian and you work in a job, just fill in the blank, whatever job, people understand that's a job, and you can move, you can get laid off, you can get fired, you can transfer, you're going to retire. But there aren't many people that go around and tell people that this is what they are. If you think about it, if you're in the military or you're a first responder, that's what you are. It identifies you as a human being. And oftentimes you can go to a party or you can go to a function, and it will be like, hey, this is my friend Mike, he's an FBI agent. I mean, there aren't many jobs where that's part of the introduction. That's what they do. It's self-consuming, it's self-identifying, right? And that's great to an extent, but the downside to that is you weren't born that, and you're not going to leave this earth as that. And there's a point where either A, you retire, or B, you physically become incapable of doing that job, and then you find yourself in another profession, or maybe not able to do the job because of injuries that you sustained or whatever has happened to you. And that goes away. Now, the problem with that is that mentally, when you have become so like your identity is that profession, when you don't have the profession anymore, people lose their identity. And I've noticed this with my own friends after I retired from the FBI, there are people that just never move on from that. And it's a shame, because they become self-obsessed with, this is what I was. I was this person in authority, and now I'm not. And they lose their direction. They lose their rudder. And then all of these other problems start to creep up, addiction issues, these codependency issues, and all of these other issues come out of the woodwork. And it sounds like the work that you're doing is getting people reconnected and saying, hey, look, there's other directions, there's other things, there's other fulfillment, there's another mission, because you mentioned how these people are mission driven, and what you're doing is you're creating another mission, another purpose, another reason to get up in the morning. And that's so important, isn't it?
It is, every single day, because to your point, they do that. I didn't understand. This was another one that for me, right? This has been a huge eye-opening experience working here at Heroes on the Water. Was the whole first responder community and how that worked and what that felt like, and really starting to understand why they felt reticent to just run in and hang out with the general public. So, yeah, you're exactly right. You've got to find a way you've got to have a healthier outlet than sitting on the couch playing video games or picking up that bottle of whiskey or, whatever it is that your numbing process is, right? I mean, that's kind of what it's like. Having something like this puts you in a situation where you're calm and you're enjoying it, and it has a positive lasting impact instead of a negative one.
Yeah, and self-destructive and isolating impact. Mm-hmm. And that's really what it is. And because I think first responders in particular, you get to this idea of the thin blue line, right? Or the thin red line if you're a firefighter, the thin yellow line, green line, and all the different first responder professions have the line. And it's beaten into your head that you're in the brotherhood, the sisterhood. It's us and them, and this is our community, and everybody out there. And I'll tell you what, as a cop, you kind of get, because you're only dealing with people that are a problem, right? Nobody comes up to you. Nobody comes up to you to tell you, hey, I just want to tell you what a great day let me dial 911 and tell you what a great day I'm having. That's not why people dial 911. And when you do that over and over and over, you kind of get the impression that like the whole world is bad. Everybody's bad. And everybody's out to get me. Everybody's out to harm me. And when you do that for so long, it changes you. It changes the neural pathways in your brain. It changes, your outlook on life. And it's just such a negative outlook. And there's like this, it's almost like a detox period that you have to go through. I will tell you, in my own life, it was about 5 years before I can kind of put the guard down a little bit and not, be in a restaurant without the wall to my back, or, watch the entire room as I'm having dinner with my wife. It really is this period of where, it shapes how you look at the rest of the world and how you look at yourself. And then sort of that depression of, look, people aren't coming to me for help anymore. I'm not that person anymore. So it has its own challenges. And cops and firefighters are notorious for not being able to relax and enjoy themselves, and particularly without drinking or altering your mood. And I obviously, where I'm coming from in this podcast, we're addressing that head on, the recovery issue from substances and the process addictions. But there's an intersectionality here, isn't there? I mean, there's that, you mentioned video games, you mentioned phones. It's just all of these things that we're talking about are ways to not be present, and not be present in our own heads, in our own minds. And it sounds like what you're doing is getting people reconnected to what is that natural state, because we tend to use unnatural ways of dealing and coping. And really, and I can tell you, having been in recovery for years myself, that the natural way is a better way. It is a much more fulfilling way. And of course, it's a lot less destructive. And I'm sure you have examples of that. What we're talking about here in your organization, and where people have said, you know what, this has gotten me reconnected without having to alter my state and mood in other ways. Have you seen that?
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Every time. I mean, that's why they come back over and over. It's why they do things like move from being a participant to a volunteer. It's why they go out and buy their own kayak, which we see a lot. It's why they see things like, we've got a guy down in San Antonio that went through the BAMC program and has now taken over that volunteer chapter in San Antonio because he loved the program so much and he wanted to see it thrive. So they do, because they understand if you immerse yourself in something, to your point, that's positive and it lets you escape in a different way, and being present in nature and then coming back and feeling relieved lets you be present with the people around you in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And once you experience that, and it's so much nicer, then, it's natural to want more of it.
Yeah, it is. And you can you're so much more productive and you're connected. And because the ultimate experience, the realization in recovery and what we're shooting for is that you find that the real secret to life is fulfillment and helping other people. And once you start helping people, you realize that in your efforts to help others, it in fact actually helps you more than it even might benefit you more than the other person. Because I think that's what we're all striving for, particularly this population, the military and law enforcement population. People realize, hey, look, I was put on earth to help, to serve the community, to serve the nation, to serve my family. And we've lost that. And an organization like this, where initially you're helping yourself, going out on the water and fishing, but then later when you are able to help other people do that, that's the real fulfillment, I think. Would you agree with that?
Yes. Yeah. And many of them do. And that's why they, like I said, they continue to do more. And we have an ambassador program filled with people who have been with the organization for a while, and they feel like they want to do more. They want to go out and spread the word. They want to be able to explain why this program is so powerful and why it's worked for them. And it's, things like that. When we watch them, and we don't ever push anybody to do anything. They come to us, and we open up the path for them to continue on their healing journey, because that's really what it is.
Yeah, that is so powerful. So what would be one key takeaway that you'd want the listeners today to walk away with in this? If there was one thing that you want them to remember about your discussion here today, what would it be?
That something as simple as kayak fishing is powerful for you to experience. It's positive.
Yeah, because sometimes it's the simple things in life that have the greatest impact, right? It doesn't have to be something, just a major event. It's something simple like this, and being reconnected. And that's phenomenal. So can you tell us how do we get in contact with you, the listeners today? Where would they reach you and the organization?
Well, that's easy. You just go to heroesonthewater.org. Everything is there. All the team, how to get in touch with us, all of the articles, the different programs, how to find a chapter near you, if that's what you're interested in, how to support us through varying means, including our recurring donor program called Honor Circle. When you become a member of that, 100% of those donations go directly to programs, so that we can ensure that everyone who wants to participate in something like this gets that opportunity. So heroesonthewater.org. Simple.
Man, that's fantastic. And I'll be checking it out. And I want everybody that's listening to check this out as well, because this is just what a valuable program. Well, Laura, thank you so much for coming on the program today. Really enjoy it. This is, and I'm going to be on your website, and don't be surprised if you see me out there on the water. I do have 2 kayaks. I've hardly used them. I need to use these things and get out there. Being in Virginia, we do have I'm in the DC area, so we have a lot of water. It's known as the swamp here, as you know that, the swamp of DC. But we do have water. We're near the ocean, and so I'll be getting out there. And of course, in the DC area, a lot of veterans, a lot of active duty military. We have the Pentagon down the road here, Fort Belvoir, Quantico is down the road, and definitely, I want to get involved. I'm inspired, and thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you. We really appreciate the opportunity to talk about what we do. We love it. So, we appreciate you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And thank all of you for listening here today. Please do get involved. That's heroesonthewater.org. And this is Laura Lindsey here. And reach out to her folks, and get involved, because this is absolutely just a great program to help all of our heroes that are out there. And you know what? It's going to help you as well. So with that, this is Mike Van Meter, Recovery is Possible with Mike and Lily, and we'll be talking with you soon. So as I always like to say, I do not represent any group, do not represent anyone other than myself. My only purpose in giving this information is to share with you what I've done because it's helped me and maybe it will help you too. If I've said something that does not apply to you or you don't agree with, then just discard it. But try to take any information that you can use for yourself and help others as well. That's what we do in recovery. We help ourselves along the way, and we hope to impart the knowledge we have gained to others as well. With that, please visit our Facebook page, Recovery is Possible, and our website, VanMeterWellnessSolutions.com. Let us know how we're doing, and let us know if there's any topic that you're interested in hearing about. We'd love to hear from you, and take care, and we'll see you next time.